Okay, so you ready for me to bring up your first caller?
All
Yeah.
right, sure. Let's give
Okay,
it.
so wants to discuss as a skeptic and has done some paranormal investigations. He
Me
has a
too.
show called Haunted the Truth. Your first caller's name is Mark. Mark, you're on with Neil and Secular
Hello.
Rarity.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
What's going on,
Hello.
brother?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thanks. I'm assuming you're doing all right.
Yeah,
Well,
doing pretty good.
Yeah.
What you want to talk with us about today, man? It looks like
Well,
you've gone out there looking
well,
for some ghosts and stuff before.
yeah. So I'm a paranormal investigator, and I started my own YouTube, which you mentioned just then, Haunted the Truth.
Mhm.
And initially, we started it as a debunking show because I'm a skeptic, so I wanted to go out of my way and go right. No, it's this. No, it's that. And have a rational point and opinion. But
Sure.
we've been to a couple of locations, and things have just gone off to a point where I can't think of like an instant rational reason. So I've seen objects literally fly through the air, and I've caught them on camera, and it's something that's really puzzled me.
Yeah, can I let me see if I can push back a little bit on this. This is one thing that's always really interests me about this stuff, right? It never
Yeah.
seems to be the case that a ghost like goes to your closet, puts on your nicest clothes, and then goes over to your computer and like types a message out on like a notepad or something, right? It's always like
This is true. Yeah.
right. So it's always like it's things that we've seen before. Like we've seen people talking about like chairs floating, or we've seen like weird bumps in the night, or lights flickering on and off. Like we all of this stuff is old hat. I mean, right? We've had it happen before. What convinces you about these new experiences that you've had that are in the same vein like that?
I think it's like, well, when not old houses and stuff, they creak when it gets dark at night.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
electricity can play up, things can mess about
Sure.
and things like that. That sort of
Especially
thing.
if it's an old house.
I will just discount that, and especially with photography, people go, "Oh, that's an orb." I go, "No, it's not. It's dust."
Right.
But I'll give you an example. I went to a place called Snuff Mills near where I live. On this bridge, walking down this bridge, middle of the dark, all of a sudden, from behind us, bump, 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 and I'm talking like someone's physically running with Doc Martens on or something.
Yeah.
Spin round, no one there. Caught it on camera. On camera at the same time, this dark shadow flies off down the bridge. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim and say, yes, that is evidence for life after death and that's a ghost, because I can't, unless it forms in front of me and goes, "Hi, I'm Barry and I died here." I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say, though, is that there is something that is going on that I don't think science has fully looked into, which people may interpret as being the dead.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Neil, please.
I kind of want to know, like, if you figure that it is possible that there is some form of life after death, what exactly would be containing you? Like, what part of you survives your physical body? Like, what do you think survives your
Well,
physical body?
going through the research and such, some people would suggest that energy isn't, it's not it cannot be created nor destroyed.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
some sort of energy source of you, or your essence of you, carries on. There's another theory that it's not actually something you can physically have a communication and talk with. It's some sort of playback, the stone tape theory they
Yep.
call it.
Yep.
So this is like everything that's happened in life is just repeating itself over and over again. Kind of like if you record over a tape and play that tape back, you get old bits of that tape playing through, even though you've recorded over it.
Yeah. There's
So I
a
think
police
if it
album
was
with that
anything,
on
it
it.
would be more like that rather than an actual physical being, because I'm yet to, have concrete evidence to suggest it is. If I get that sort of evidence, then I would want to ask. To be fair, I'd be, because I talk to like other people in my crew and everything, and they say no evidence is ever going to be enough, because you're always going to have another question of, right, okay, so that is someone's granddad.
Mhm. Absolutely. Right.
How is it?
Do you think has something to? Well, the reason I ask is because when you're talking about a spirit or the remnants of somebody that was once with us, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
What, like, is there consciousness with them? Because as far as I know, as far as the laws of physics state, once you're gone, the consciousness is gone because it's generated in your brain. And once your brain dies, there's no more consciousness. So
there is speculation on that. I'm not saying that this is my opinion, but I do research into a lot of this, and there's a lot of speculation on this. And there have been cases where people have basically, their heart stops. They're on their deathbed in the hospital, and for some reason they get brought back. So technically their conscious should have shut down, but they can recall the things that the doctors and nurses were saying in the room, what they were doing.
Mark, can I push back a little bit?
Kind of a weird.
Well, let him finish first.
Well, because I think there's already something right there. I've heard this a lot where people talk about these, instances where, somebody was floating above their body and then they could read a note or like a 10-digit number string that was placed on top of a cabinet or something. But those are apocryphal at best. Those stories, oftentimes people are confused and they say, well, somebody did this. And then when you look into the story, what you find is they put the numbers up there or they put the script up there, but nobody's ever been able to actually point back to it. But
give a right answer either.
Exactly. But instead, what
I always do find it as either they're lying completely or they're telling the truth. But I've never experienced astral projection in my life, so I can't. I'm not going to sit here and say that's real. I can only go off what I've seen and captured in my own footage. So, and I've started coming along with the theory that it's potentially some sort of dimensional breach and not spirits at all.
Sure.
Dimensional breach. I'm confused.
Yeah.
What do you think dimensions are?
Well, we live in a three-dimensional space, and there's obviously a theory that there's four
actually.
kind of
we include time.
An infinite amount. So like tesseracts and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm just like, what if there's some sort of higher being which is more intelligent than us that can just shift into our dimension for a 0.2 of a time, do something.
Would we ever notice that?
Shift out of it again.
Because if you think of, say,
you would only notice it in that present moment. It's kind of like ants. Ants don't realize you're there until you put your finger in their nest. But then they don't go, oh, there's a house next to me.
Well, hang on a second, Mark. Let me see if I can kind of point back to something that you said a minute ago. And if I'm just way off page, man, no worries. I mean, correct us. That's what we're here for. But there was a point in time where you said you were kind of discussing this with some of your colleagues, and they made the statement that no evidence would ever be enough. Do you also feel that like there could never be enough evidence to indicate God or to indicate a soul or to indicate these other dimensions? Do you accept that, or do you think maybe there is some evidence that would be enough?
I think the only way to get evidence, so if let's say we were all a scientific community, from argument's sake, and we captured stuff, the only way to get the evidence is to have it act on a repetitive point. So I place down a bell, I say move the bell moves, we repeat that experiment 3 times, we've got a load of equipment set up and it does it 3 times. The problem is these sort of things don't respond when you want them to. Half the time there doesn't seem to be any intelligent responses. It's just random. It's
do you feel like that's a problem?
I'll give you an example. I put a bell on a wall and it flew off a wall at me. That would be a massive problem to prove it in a scientific manner.
Yeah.
I think if anybody managed to do that, they would win a Nobel Prize.
No, for sure. They'd be famous worldwide. Do you think that's a problem for these types of, for not just these types of claims, but any claim, right? Like if I make the claim my car turns on and moves forward when I put the key in, turn it, and then push my foot down. And I test it once and it works, but then I test it a second time and it doesn't work. And then I give it to a buddy and then they try it and it doesn't work. Do you think there's a problem with claims that don't have the potential to be repeated like this?
Oh, it's a difficult one, to be fair.
Mm.
Because obviously there are things out there in science which are very hard to get a constant, yes, 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 yes. Although they still get it's more of a hypothesis before it becomes an actual fact.
Anything in particular you can think of? Maybe Neil and I mean, I'm not saying Neil or I are geniuses. I don't want to speak for Neil, but I'm at least half an idiot, so I don't know that I'll be able to. But
Okay,
the
like
other half,
the
Yeah.
Higgs boson,
Okay.
for example, they didn't know what that was all. Yeah, there's this, God particle, the Higgs boson.
Sure.
They built CERN and the proton accelerator, and they're
They
trying to
found
find
it.
this
They did.
God particle, and eventually they found it. But before then, it was all all being stuff through computational. So it was all
Right. That's right. The math says it was
people
there.
on computers,
Right.
and I think what I'm doing is effectively the computational type thing and going, this is happening, that's happening, but I can't get it to, not once can I go, right. It's very rare that I'll say, do this, and it will do something.
Sure.
And then I'm like, well, that could just be a coincidence.
Yep.
And then it really annoys me because I've got my mind is the type of mindset which like to figure things out. So when I can't put my finger on, okay, I've placed that on that wall, we've walked off, and I've asked it to fly off 3 or 4 times and it decides to do it now. Like, I can't place my finger on what has actually caused that.
Yeah.
So once you've taken out the equation of, wind and, the normal things, it just becomes a big question mark. So
And it should
initially
stay
it was
that
like,
way.
is there something? Yes. And now my question is, what is that something?
Yeah.
Well, it's okay to say I don't know until we find out,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of just claiming outright, oh yeah, all right, that's going up there. Okay, it must be this person.
Oh my God, it's Slimer
Obviously
from
some people might find that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
there's
I've had occasions.
Well, I
Carry
think a lot of us, especially, those of us that hang around at this great place or Neil's awesome channel or, just other similar environments. I think a lot of us, we're not big fans of having to just, close the paper and stamp it with a question mark and file the folder away for later review, but we don't know, right? I mean, we just, if
No,
we
we
really
don't
don't know one way or the other, we don't
only
have
within the first this first 20 within the 21st century that they have actually discovered a black hole is real.
Yeah, we took a
If you
picture
go
of
back
it, right?
years ago, that was just all is it? Before that, we didn't even know what the universe was. So
Oh, sure.
where science is now, I'm thinking, well, what else is there that they missed?
Sure. And I think
Sure.
there's always going to be more stuff out there for us to look at. But I think one thing for me that always is frustrating and potentially harmful is when we think there's an unknown. We think there's something new right around the corner, and we go ahead and tell people what it is. We say, "Hey, I can't see past these shadows, but I know exactly what's over there, and here's what it is." And not only that, but it cares about who you love, or it cares about, words that you say, or you have to do X so that it can be pleased, so that you can get something even further into those shadows, right? Again, it's a bummer that we have to kind of just label stuff as a big box of who knows. But it is a lot of times just the most honest answer and the most true answer that we've got right now.
Yeah, and I'm never going to discount, because people do give out stories and they say my house is haunted and stuff like that.
Sure.
And there was a time that I'd be like, oh yeah, get over, you're having me on. But now I can perfectly understand why, discounting all the fakers out there, of course, the people that are just out there to make money or just be popular.
Sure.
You mean
But
like
there's
Hollywood?
people out there with genuine stories of genuine activity happening, and these things are happening, and I can understand why they saying it's a ghost. I'm not saying it's not a ghost, but at the same time, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying I
Yeah.
believe you
Yeah, and
Okay.
in the sense that something's happening.
I think that's one thing for sure that Ethan as well as this channel as a whole, I mean, we've always tried to come at stuff, a little bit more charitably if possible, a little bit more we'll sit down and listen to what you got to say, and we try not to just instantly, you're a liar, how dare you, you piece of we try not to jump on that right away, right? But like the other day, a friend of mine was talking to me about a story years ago. Like, we've been friends for a long time, and I never knew he had a ghost encounter, and I'm sitting there listening to him talk about this experience that he had at a public library in my area. And for a while in the story, I was just kind of like, oh man, this is like an interesting story, like no big deal. And then he just casually ended the whole thing by saying, yeah, and that's why I don't go back there. And I'm like, oh, brother, dude, you're not, man, you don't think that ghost is trying to get you or something, do you? I mean, it's a library,
I'd be the
man.
opposite. I'd be going, we need to go back in there, right? Set
Yeah,
everything up, right?
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah,
Put this
yeah.
up there, that there.
Just so you know, Mark,
See why
if you were
people
in a
like-
horror movie, you would be one of the first people to die. That type of attitude is
Oh,
always,
yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
So
I climbed the tower the other day without a barrier, and my mate was like, don't do any shout, like, don't do any, like, calling out for anything that might be there. Because I do, I throw it out there when I'm at places. I say, oh, is this, supposedly, let's say the last place was Sally. She got murdered there or something. She was a gypsy girl, and she apparently haunted the woods. So I will go, is this Sally? Just in case it is Sally. And my mate was like, don't say, is this Sally when going up there? Because if it is Sally and it's real, she's chucking you off and you're dead. So I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah, I mean, I've heard people say that too. Like, don't do the, what is it? You look in the mirror and you get the lights off. You say Bloody Mary
Oh,
3
yeah, I've
times,
done
or
that.
yeah, spin around 3 times, say Candyman or whatever the hell it is. But it I think, like I was saying, with the story of my buddy, he doesn't go back to this library now because 5 years ago he thought a ghost was in the section or something. But I think a lot
It
of
scares
time,
people though, and
yeah,
sometimes people don't want to accept there's something going on because it
sure,
scares them
sure, and
because they
I
don't know
think,
what it is.
yeah, and I think a lot of times too, we don't want to investigate further because honestly, we're just comfortable with the answer that we've gotten. Complacency is a huge problem for humans, it seems. When we get super chill about our routine, when we get super ingrained in our rut and we just keep doing it day in and day, I've been waking up, middle of the night to pray for years now. I why would I stop, I think that can also play
Yeah,
a part in it too. And I think it's awesome that there are more and more people out there doing paranormal investigation and those types of avenues that are coming at it from a skeptical lens and are trying to say, look, we're just gonna let the chips fall where they fall, and if they fall on ghost, well, it's a ghost. But if they don't, then we're not gonna make that claim. We're not gonna try to tell people that it is.
yeah. But there are some which are just outright claiming as well. Though on the other foot, I don't know how it is in the States, especially in the southern areas.
Oh, we got our
I won't mention
shysters.
anywhere because you might have listeners. But there are people which are like, well, when I was traveling through New Orleans, I got told to not mention God or anything with my paranormal stuff because I could end up creating a bit of a frenzy.
Oh, sure.
So there are people out there which anything, they will literally react to everything and anything. So something will make a little creak and they go, did you hear that? Whereas I'll hear a creak and I'll go, right, what's over there? Is there anything that's causing the creak? No, there isn't. Can you do the creak again for me, please? And then if it does it again, I kind of like, oh God, yep, it's done it again, right? But there is also a degree of adrenaline. So when you are going into these, you know, old houses or creepy woods and stuff, and you start hearing things like this, and as soon as you realize, oh, hang on, something's going on, you start getting it's like sort of like an adrenaline addiction.
Yeah. And let me just real quick jump in, Mark, just to say, hey, folks out there watching, I can't see you right now, but you can see me. And there's one really easy thing you can do, and it's call the number on the screen. It's a very simple number. It's 951-364-2430. Just get your phone, smash it up to your face, and just call us and have a nice, fun chat like Mark is right now with us. Mark, do you think we have to worry more about God or ghosts? Which one do you think is more? Just kind of picking your brain. I'm just interested. It just came to my mind. So
I've seen more, I don't want to use the word evidence, but more things that you see in all these movies like Insidious and things like that. I've seen more that relate to that that I have from God. So I've not seen like why can I tell like something that's supposedly dead to do something and it does it, but I can say call out to God and say, oh, can you move that bell for me? And he doesn't.
You heard it here first,
That's
folks.
never happened.
More evidence for ghosts than God. You heard it here.
Well, how do you know one of those ghosts wasn't the Holy Spirit?
I don't know.
But I don't know, and then there's obviously so many different variations of God. So you know, you've got God Yahweh, you've got Allah, you've got and then you've got the Hindus like Vishnu, and there is an interesting thing though, which that there's some which is like different religions around. They even though they're in different areas of the world. So I'm talking dating back to like, you know, the Greeks, the Roman, like, and the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the etc. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Some of them have very big like similarities, and it's like, well, that's kind of interesting that this person over there and that person over there has never met each other before, has exactly the same play out that's going on, different names, but the same stuff. That I'm not saying that is an evidence of God. I'm just saying it is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Sure. Neil, it looks like you got something to say, man.
Well, before we wrap this call up, something to consider. Because I mean, if these ghosts are real, they would have to represent the person they once were, right? So they might look like them if they were an apparition or whatever, and probably have their personality, right? Sort of thing. So that would require the consciousness to be there. And as far as we can tell, for the everyday physics, like of everyday physics of everyday life, I should say, consciousness at the very basic level is really just a series of atoms and electrons that essentially give us our mind.
Indeed.
Okay, so there's no way within those laws to allow for the information stored in our brains to persist after we die.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be the case. I'm no neuroscientist, but
it would have to be something else.
Right. And who knows? You might be right. We might not have the technology to investigate that. And who knows? Maybe someday it will come and we'll like, holy shit, there is an afterlife. But, you know, for now, we don't see any actual demonstrable signs of it.
No, and they have studies on this as well, where people have died.
I've had experiences too, but learning what I've learned since those times, I've kind of put them off as, you know, our brains trick us literally all day, every day. Our brains fuck with us. So it could be something that comes from your own mind too. And don't forget that a lot of things.
Yes. yes,
play
I
it,
understand
influence
that,
your
which
how
is
you
why
think of things, pop culture, you name it.
I film everything.
That's
I
good.
film everything.
I bought a camera to
Because
ghost
I
hunt
don't trust
too.
my
So,
brain.
but I never did catch
If I'm filming something and something moves and I go, wait, did I, what am I, have I been smoking something? You know what I mean? Like if something moves
well, I can help you
and then
there.
I look at the camera and I go, yeah, it did move. It actually did move. There it is moving. Or if something goes, because I've had voices and stuff as well. Like we've heard stuff being like going and stuff like that, and I've gone, right, what was that? And then I've gone home, played it back on the camera, and I'm now going, that really was there. So I trust in my camera more than I do my eyes and ears.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a
And-
quick question
and-
on that though, Mark?
Yeah.
Have you heard about the psychological phenomenon of priming?
Go on.
So basically,
I
just
don't know if I have, but
just the idea that like before I, finish my speech and ask you whether you want spaghetti, like I show you just like pictures of spaghetti throughout the day, and then I say, hey, what do you want for dinner? And you go, I don't know why, but I kind of want spaghetti. Is it
yeah, of course, the type of thing that Darren Brown does. I understand
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
Yes.
Is it possible that in that moment when you heard that noise live with your camera there, that your brain said, hey, that's what this sound is, and when you went back you actually heard the sound just slightly differently to kind of match what you remembered? Like maybe it was really just a bird chirping, but it's such a weird
Yeah,
chirp.
this
You see where I'm going?
regarding sounds, regarding sounds, there always is the well, because especially outdoors, is there an animal? And then I go, well, it's nighttime. I've even called the zoo and gone, is an animal chucking rocks, like it's chucking rocks at me. Like it sounds mad, but I'm trying to investigate every avenue.
Yeah.
But I think one of the weirdest ones I've ever had was in somebody's house, and I was sat on the stairs, and clear as day, right next to me, it went, and I'm there looking at my mate. He's looking at me. There's no one else in the house. It's 2 a.m, and I'm like,
Could
"There's a
it have been
whistle
an
in the
alarm
air."
of some
Like
kind?
that's undisputable. There was a whistle in the air, and we weren't expecting a whistle. We weren't asking for a whistle. It just happened.
Sure.
Right, but could it have been something like an alarm of some sort?
Good point.
No, I did ask funny enough, I asked the owners, have you got anything like a cuckoo clock or anything upstairs that can create this whistle? It was a proper tune. It wasn't the first time I did it. It did it a couple of another time in the night as well. Different tune altogether. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've not been able to pin down, is that sound. I've not been able to go, oh, it might have been that. And then when it's objects, so like my bell, when I put that on the bridge, that just comes flying off the bridge, and my camera it's there one scene, and then the next is off. The stones, literally, my mate was stood in the middle of the bridge on his own, and a stone comes down the bridge and hits him square in the face. There's no one else down there. How does that come off the ground and hit him in the face at pace to cause a red mark?
Yeah.
Like that, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But that's
So I know there's nothing easy to explain that.
Sure. But that's always one of the biggest
Unless you've got
problems
something to offer.
Yeah, for sure. But that, I
Yeah.
mean, that's
I'm
always
always
one of
out there to take like offers, like, okay, guys, what do you think that is? And I will listen to people, and they will say this, that, and I go, no, I've tried that, I've thought about that,
Yeah.
I've done that,
Yeah.
I've done that.
Have you ever heard something called the problem of underdetermination?
I don't believe I have.
The problem of underdetermination is basically just a simple concept when it comes to us trying to ascribe a conclusion to some set of events. So we see something happen and we say, well, maybe it's this. The problem is there's always an infinite amount of things that it could be, right? It could always be something else. And that's why we need that positive indication that says it can only be this right here. And that's what I
Yeah.
think it sounds like you're going for in these investigations, which is really valuable and is really the way that we should come to conclusions. If we're willing to stand and say this is what it is, we need that positive indication, you know?
Yeah. In the moment now, I kind of have to just go, right, that happened. I'll
Yeah.
try and get it to repeat once or twice. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, at the beginning, I just started going, like, driving myself crazy, like losing sleep over just thinking about, you know, probabilities of stuff. And so I think to a degree, you have to go, that's happened, right? Let's go to the next place, see what we get there, see if something similar happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
The stories that these guys have got are just insane. Like, you know, people going around there like grandchildren, they're just in the kitchen and in the bowl of fruit, an orange has come out of the bowl of fruit and just hit the grandchild in the side of the face. You know, it's the stuff that you would hear a producer putting together for a horror movie.
Sure.
It's sanity.
Well, Mark,
And if you try and dive into it too much and think about it too much, you will go insane.
well, Mark, here I'm gonna offer you something, man. I don't know if you're up to it, but this awesome show happens every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Same great channel, same great place. Why don't you give us a call back next week or the week after and tell us some of those other stories, man?
yeah, it'd be cool.
I could do,
I may
yeah.
not be here, but-
I could do. Obviously, I'm in the UK, so I need to keep an eye on the cost.
It's a bit of a
me.
it's a bit of a time zone thing for sure. But
One-
Neil, you got one more thing before we let Mark go?
One more thing to consider, Mark. Don't forget that if life continued in some capacity after death, the quantum field would have revealed spirit particles or spirit forces by now. We would have found them because nothing gets past the quantum field spell.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
That is that. I mean, well, we're starting to go into quantum physics. But, you know,
I don't know a whole
like,
lot about it, but I know a little bit.
People say, yeah. How long have we got?
Yeah.
People say, oh, if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make any sounds? And I say, well, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to see it, has the tree even fallen? You know, it's
Who the hell knocked it over?
crazy.
Yeah.
And then there's
Nobody there.
dark energy and dark matter as well, which they've only just found. And it's like, yeah, we've suddenly got these new energies. And I'm like,
They haven't
Oh,
found
don't
it, but there's
even.
evidence of it based
Yeah.
on reactions and stuff going on.
Yeah, in a similar fashion that there's evidence of something moving a stone off the floor. But I don't
Sure,
think it's
yeah.
dark energy and dark matter that's doing that. They've got about as much
I doubt
evidence on
that,
that
but-
as what I have of objects flying.
Well, before we go down
I
that
might be
rabbit
some
trail, before we
Maybe
go
some
down
geo
too
research.
far there, Mark, like I said,
Yeah.
man, we greatly appreciate your call
Yeah, man,
tonight.
good to chat with you.
Hang back with us. Come see us again. I know, again, it's crazy time zone. It's
I
stupid
hope I'm
o'clock.
here when you call.
Yeah, it's way late over there. Go
Yeah.
get some rest and thank you so much for calling us.
No worries. Could I just say one thing?
Yeah, finish up.
Well, that depends.
So if anybody is interested in actually checking out, you know, some of the places and things that I had mentioned, you can just hop over to hauntedthetruth.co.uk. And
Okay.
I'm not outright skeptic on it. I'm not going, this is all fake. I'm trying to take a bit of a seat.
Open
You know,
mind.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
That's good.
So
That's
yeah,
good.
if
We
you're
like that. We
interested in
like that
then
here.
Have a gander.
But Mark, always be critical.
Anyway, guys, thank you.
Awesome, Mark. You have a good one. So
It's
Neil, I got a
interesting.
question.
Mm.
If a quantum tree falls in a quantum forest, does anybody know what the hell we're talking about?
No, it's too small. Unless you've got the equipment to see it, then no, you're just kind of screwed.
Well, good, man. Good. I gotta say, while I'm not the person that's gonna go out looking for ghosts on a regular basis, I am kind of glad when there are people that are doing it, especially when they come at it with a skeptical and kind of a scientific mind. It sounded like Mark was coming at, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to find ghosts. I haven't seen any evidence.
Well, I put out a few ghost traps. They have yet to, get caught in them. So
Let me know. Let me know. Have your people call my people. we'll figure
My
this out.
ghost skull, your ghost.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, we have some other awesome calls. By the way, there is still time. 951-364-2430. The number's on the screen. The number can be found in the chat and the description below. I think they can find your awesome channel in the description or in the chat too, Neil. So if you haven't liked and subscribed lately over there, go check out Neil's stuff. But